Hi, it's Polly with Get Busy Thriving. This is step 4 of creating lasting change for yourself and in your life. And this is an exciting one because whatever that pattern was, whatever that old behavior is that you've been running with. So I'm going to speak now to a large part of my readers and subscribers and my population, my tribe, and those are the ones with an eating disorder. And so having had an eating disorder for 20 years, I know those patterns very well. I know what it's like to have a long day at work, have a really stressful day. So I'll just give an example of what my pattern looked like in the peak of my eating disorder years. So, for 20 years, I had kind of yo-yo eating disorder off and on, and a couple of days, couple of weeks, couple of months of recovery, and then back to it I would go. But in the peak, when I was doing it sometimes 10 times a day, what would happen, so I was working, I was in my early 20s, and it would look like this. I would have a super stressful day. So, I'd be on the phones with angry customers. I'd have a boss criticizing me all the time. I'd have just too much work and too little time to do it and just running around. And not a lot of other joy or fulfillment in my life. So, my work was really my passion, what I put myself into. And when all of this stress would come down upon me, or I'd have these stressful thoughts in my mind and I would just internalize them, it would be like this building, volcano inside me, or mountain of momentum, of negative energy, of stress and anxiousness and lack of self-worth and doubt, and just needed to get out of there, right? And so interrupting my pattern. So what I would do after work is about midday, I'd say, okay, fine. Well, all of this stress and all of this, it'll be fine because I'll just go to the grocery store afterward and I'll buy all this food and I'll eat it all the way home, and that'll be that. And that gave my mind a little bit of relief and saying, okay, that feels better than all of this crappy feeling. So, okay, let's do that. And then I reinforced it day in and day out. So that was my pattern. I would get triggered by the stresses and the emotions that would bubble up and just sort of well up inside me like a volcano, or some people talk about the binge urge as like this monster that just feels like it overtakes you. And I totally get that. So let's call that your trigger, that triggered emotional state you get into where you're just stressed or bored or fearful or anxious, like what's going to happen, or worry. So you start to feel that emotion, and then your brain would normally kick into its pattern, its habit loop, and it would put you into, okay, we're just going to go eat a lot. And whether you could in that moment or you decided, okay, I'm going to eat at a certain time, but it gets triggered and then it finds itself a way to get out of it. And the reward is, at the end of all of that, I would be eating massive quantities of food, but I wouldn't be thinking about the stress. I wouldn't be worried about work. So it's about interrupting that pattern. So what that could look like, 2 ways to do it. First way is visualizing it. So I could sit home quietly before I go to work, and I would think about another outcome for that. So as I would think about being stressed at work and all the things that I was doing at work, I can visualize myself running around and doing all these things and interacting with people and angry customers. And then I could interrupt the pattern and go, but wait, instead I could just and find a new pattern to interrupt it with. Okay, so I would interrupt it and say, nope, I just need to take 5 really deep breaths, or 10 really slow breaths, or you know what, I think I'm going to take a break and go out for a walk. So I'll go out for a walk for 5 or 10 minutes, walk around the block, get some oxygen, feel better. So I would visualize that, and I would sort of rehearse that in my mind, practice that, interrupting the pattern. Other way to do it is I would think about a memory of a recent time when I had gone through my habit loop. So I had been triggered, I went and ate a lot of food, then I purged, back and forth. So what I could do is in my mind, think about the last memories of the times that I had done it and scramble those patterns. It's called the scrambling technique. So instead of letting my mind remember let's say the movie of my life, the movie of my last binge, exactly as it was, I would interrupt that pattern. I would give it a new memory. So what that could look like is, instead of, so what I coach my clients on is like, picture it like it's running across the front of your mind like a movie. You're like, in your mind, you're visually remembering that movie running in front of your mind. So you see yourself, I see myself at work, running around, and then it comes to the trigger, and then I just decide, and whatever. And what you can do with that video is you can scramble it in the mind. So what that looks like is as if you were going to tweak, like in Photoshop or a video editor, the editing of that video, you could maybe make it go tie-dye. So like add a lot of funky colors to it and just tweak it color-wise, or you could make it go black and white, or you could add a lot of sound to the background. You could play like funky music or disco or whatever, and then, you know, interrupt what the thoughts are, you know, so like scramble all the thoughts, say it in a Mickey Mouse voice, and just really transform the memory from the original clip, you know, what the clip looked like of that video from beginning to end, and just interrupt it and make it completely different. Make it funny, make it, you know, country western, give it a rap tune in the background, whatever. So the brain goes, which one of these memories is the real memory? So it can't go back to that memory and go, oh, I do this when that happens. So it goes, wait, what was going on? I don't remember that, you know? So that's interrupting your pattern. You can also do it in the moment. That, I would say, is one of the most challenging. I think it's a fantastic recommendation that you see in a lot of teachings on how to overcome habits and addictions, is you just either pause and you like sit with it. You know, you just notice the neurological junk, as my friend Catherine Hansen would say in Brain Over Binge, and she says you just pay attention to it. You know, so interrupting the pattern is just not doing the old pattern. So as you're in the moment of it, you interrupt it, you go, nope, I don't have to do it, or you just sit with it, take some breaths. As it's coming through, you let that urge sort of, you know, surge in you and then just sort of dissipate. And it does. It does. It absolutely does. So you don't have to give into that urge, but it is challenging. You know, a lot of people can do it, and a lot of people can't. But for those of you that can, if you can sit through that urge and just wait it out, like knowing this is just, you know, this is just my mind here. This is just my mind sending chemicals into my body that's making me think that I want to do this when I really don't. Fantastic. So that's interrupting the pattern, like in the moment. So I hope those are helpful for you, and interrupting the pattern is a fantastic way and an important step in breaking your old habit. So hope that's helpful, and give it a try.